Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and today we are continuing our roster breakdown series with the LSU Tigers. So LSU went out and got Lane Kiffin during the offseason, the biggest coaching search of the year, and really of the last few years with the whole Lane saga. And the amount of transfer players that they brought in and saw leave is unbelievable. We already did their transfer portal video highlighting those high profile guys. But then you go through their whole roster, their whole 2 deep, their whole 3 deep even. You just reminded again how many new faces there are going to be in Baton Rouge. So let's get straight into it. And I mean, the first 3 guys that we're going to bring up are transfers, starting off with the quarterback in Sam Levitt, who's coming in from Arizona State. He's 6'2", 216 as a redshirt junior. He was the #1 portal QB in last year's class. He only started 7 games last year because of injury, but in 2024, he was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year, led Arizona State to the playoff, to the Big 12 championship game. So there's a bunch of talent there with Levitt, there is, but I'm worried about him, and I said this earlier, but like his record against SEC teams is not very good. How he's played against them is just not great. And missing most of, if not all of spring with an injury really scares me because he's in a new conference with a new system, new coaches, brand new teammates, and he hasn't been able to get spring reps. I am admittedly very worried about what Sam Levitt does look like this fall. But behind him is Hussein Longstreet, who is a former 5-star commit to USC. He's 6'1", 195 as a redshirt freshman. He was a top quarterback in the 2025 class, #3, in fact, of the quarterbacks there in that cycle. And he played in 4 games with the Trojans, only 13 of 15 passing, but he does have a ton of talent. He's a very good guy to be behind Sam Levitt. Moving on to the running back room. The projected starter is actually not one of the returners, but a transfer in Dylan Jones coming in from Wisconsin. He's 5'11", 211 pounds, as a redshirt sophomore. He started 7 games last year before injuries cut his year off short, but he carried the ball 88 times for over 300 yards and 2 scores over 10 games in his career with Wisconsin. So he should be a very good lead back, or really one of the 3 lead backs for LSU, because there is a guy like Harlem Berry in that room who is 5'10", 187 as a sophomore. He was a 5-star kid. He really emerged last season, really came on in the back half of the year, had over 100 carries for just about 500 yards and 2 scores, 4.7 yards per carry as a true freshman is nothing to complain about. And they also have Caden Durham still in that room, who is 5'9", 200 pounds as a junior. He played in all 12 games last year for LSU, 12 of 13, had over 100 carries for just over 500 yards and 3 scores. Also in that running back room is Stacy Gage, who transferred from UCF. He's 5'10", 207 pounds as a redshirt sophomore. He had 13 carries for 63 yards and a score last year with the Knights, so he'll be a good depth piece. And then Racine Guillory is a Utah transfer who stands at 5'10", 179. He is a redshirt freshman. He played in just 1 game, so another depth piece there for the Tigers at running back. Then moving on to the receiver room, that might be the deepest receiver room I've ever seen in my entire life. Winston Watkins is up there at the top of it. He is an Ole Miss transfer, 5'10", 182 as a true sophomore. He played in all 15 for Ole Miss last season, had 26 grabs for just about 400 yards and a score. But he's incredibly used to Walt Weiss. What am I talking about? To Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin, their offensive scheme. So he should be near the top of that receiver room. Also a guy like Jackson Harris, who transfers in from Hawaii. He's 6'2", 202 as a redshirt junior. He was first team All-Mountain West last year, had 49 grabs for almost 1,000 yards, just shy of it, and 12 scores. So he'll be ultra productive. And then Jace Brown is another name who comes over from Kansas State. He's 5'11", 175 as a senior. He was all Big 12 last season. Played in 10 games, started 9 of them, had 41 grabs for over 700 yards and 5 scores. And then just the other guys in this receiver room, the depth is absurd. Philip Wright, 6', 171 as a redshirt freshman. He played in just 2 games last year, but he is a dynamic athlete. Malik Esley, who transfers in from Illinois. He's 6'2", 214 as a redshirt junior. Played in just 4 games, did get his redshirt last season. Roman Mothershed is 6'5", 208 pounds as a redshirt junior. He comes in from Troy. Trey Brown is an Old Dominion transfer at 6'2", 208, who had over 25 grabs last year. And then Eugene Wilson from Florida, who is 5'11", $190. He's a dynamic, twitchy guy. He comes into the portal as well. Moving on to the tight end room. I talked about a ton of those receivers and how good they are. It's possible that Trey Green will be LSU's leading pass catcher this year. 6'7", 237 pounds as a junior. He is a total cheat code. I mean, we saw it last year. He's a red zone weapon, and I do believe that Weiss and Kiffin will really be able to use him to the most of his abilities. But he had 33 grabs for over 400 yards and 7 scores last year. And then also in that tight end room is Malachi Thomas, who is 6'3", 242 as a junior. He transfers in from Pitt, and he played in all 13 for the Panthers last year, totaling 13 grabs for just about 200 yards and 2 scores. Going through the offensive line now. once again, a ton of new here. Jordan Seaton is going to be one of the O tackles. He obviously was that 5-star who's coming in from Colorado. He's 6'5", 307 pounds as a junior. He was second team All Big 12 last season, started 9 games, and he only allowed 1 sack. They also have Weston Davis in that room, who is a returner. He's 6'6", 315 as a redshirt sophomore. He played in 12 games, started 10 last year, and had 699 snaps last season, so tons of experience. Bo Bordelon is 6'6", 305 pounds as a senior. He played in all 13 games last year. He got reps at left guard, left tackle, right tackle, tight end, and even special teams. So he's a dynamic big guy, but he will be on those front 5 this year. Another transfer is Aliou Ba, who is 6'5", 327 pounds as a senior, coming in from Maryland. He started all 12 at right guard last year there for the Terps, and 681 snaps, only 1 penalty flag. And then Braylon Moore returns at center. He is 6'2", 310 as a senior. He started all 12 at center last year for LSU, so good continuity there. In 623 offensive snaps, he allowed just 1 sack. So LSU's O-line, full of talent. Their skill players, full of talent. I just worry about quarterback and how they'll be able to mesh. But let's just go over to the defensive side of the ball, which I believe could be one of the best units in the country. Starting off with the edge rushers, you have Prince William, who followed Lane over from Ole Miss. He is 6'4", 244 as a senior. He had 9 sacks and 13 TFLs last year with the Rebels. Just a superstar talent. And what will help him is that across from him is Jordan Ross, who's coming from Tennessee. He is 6'5", 246 as a junior. Played in 11 games last year. He's a former 5-star guy. He hasn't gotten full starting reps yet, but he had 23 tackles, 3.5 TFLs, a sack and a half. If you watch his tape, you watch his plays, he chased down Taylor Green for a forced fumble last year. He is a freak athlete. Him and Prince William together is just disgusting. Also, at the end position is Lamar Brown, who was 6'4", 285 as a freshman. He was the #1 overall prospect in America on some recruiting services last year, right out of Baton Rouge, so he has superstar potential. And then Dylan Carpenter, who is 6'3", 252. He's a redshirt junior, played in 10 games last year, had 10 tackles, 2.5 TFLs, and 2 sacks. And then moving inside to the defensive tackle spot, we have Deuce Gerald, who is another elite prospect as a freshman. 6'1", 279. He was the #3 defensive tackle in last year's recruiting class, and he is Georgia's all-time sack leader at the high school level. They also bring in Malik Blockton, who is a 6'3", 286-pound junior transferring in from Auburn. He played in all 12, got 8 starts last year, rattled up 18 tackles, 4.5 TFLs, and half a sack. And then because we haven't had enough superstar freshmen already, Richard Anderson is in there at D tackle as well. He was the top defensive line prospect in 2026, had 53 tackles, 10 sacks, 22 hurries, 2 fumble recoveries, and a pick 6 as a senior. So LSU's defensive line is just chock full of superstars. And behind those 3 at D tackle, you have Stephylon Green, who is 6'3", 296. He is a redshirt junior coming in from Clemson. He played in 24 total games with those Tigers, had 34 tackles, 5 TFLs, and 3.5 sacks. And then Dominic McKinley is 6'6", 297 pounds as a junior. He played in all 13 games last year for the Tigers, but over his career, he has 19 total tackles, 5 TFLs, and 2 sacks. Moving to the linebacker room, they return Whit Weeks back there to be the quarterback of that defense at 6'3", 223. He's a senior who started all 8 games that he played last year, a couple of injuries, but he had 31 tackles, 3 TFLs, and a sack. And then TJ Daugherty's coming over with Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. He is 6'2", 225, started all 15 for the Rebels last season, had 98 tackles, 5.5 TFLs, a sack and a half, and 2 forced fumbles. Other depth pieces in that linebacker room include Devon Keys, who is 6', 227 as a junior. He played in 13 games last year, had 92 tackles, which is crazy for a quote-unquote depth piece, but he was ultra protective when Whit Weeks was hurt last season. And then Charles Ross II is 6'1", 218 pounds as a sophomore. Really a special teams guy last year as a freshman, but he did see action in all 12 games. Moving back to a room that I'm a little more concerned about, at least when it comes to depth, is LSU's corners. At the top, it's great. They got DJ Pickett, who is 6'4", 189 as a sophomore. He was a 5-star guy last season, just an alien athlete when you watch him on the field. He was freshman All-SEC last season, played in 13, had 3 picks, and only allowed 21 catches in over 300 coverage snaps. And then across from him is PJ Woodland, who is 5'11", 164 as a junior. He started all 13 games last season and has only allowed 1 touchdown in 2 seasons. So those 2 are great at the top. I'm worried about the depth because you have guys like Jakeem Jackson here, who was a Florida transfer before last season, is 6', 188 as a redshirt junior. He played in 11 last season, only got 84 total snaps, so not a ton of experience. Then Deshaun Spears is more in that nickel spot, but he's 6'3", 209 as a junior. Played in all 13 games, had 3 TFLs and 2 picks, so that's solid. But then like Michael Turner, who was 6'1", 162 as a redshirt sophomore, played in 7 games last year, mostly snaps on special teams. So the talent in that corner room, at least the top two, I'm not worried about. But health is paramount because the depth there in that room is not great. And then moving back to the safety spot, Ty Benefield is 6'3", 208 pounds as a senior. He's coming in from Boise State, and people have been raving about him all spring long. He was first team All Mountain West last season with the Broncos. He started all 14 games, had over 100 tackles, 8.5 TFLs, and 2 picks. Then across from Benefield is Tamarcus Cooley, who is 6 foot, 206 pounds as a redshirt junior. He started in all 13 games last year, had 70 tackles, a tackle and a half for loss, and 2 picks. They also have Fahim Delane back there, who is 6'2", 213 as a sophomore. He's coming in from Ohio State. He played in 13 games last year, only got 81 snaps, but did get some decent experience over there with the Buckeyes. And then Jace Thomas is 6'1", 175 as a redshirt freshman. Played in 5 games last year, and he blocked that punt against Texas A&M last year to really, when we thought LSU was going to compete in that game, but he made that big play, so he clearly has an affinity for the spotlight. And then at kicker, they portaled in Scott Starzik, who is from Arkansas, 5'9", 175 as a sophomore. He was freshman All-SEC last year, was 14 of 18 kicking field goals, and 47 of 47 on extra points. So I talked pretty fast through that. I mean, there are so many players on LSU's roster that are worth noting and so little time. But this LSU team, there's no doubt in my mind that it's one of the most talented, chock full of firepower rosters in the sport. I mean, on both offense and defense. Just the amount of blue chips, especially on the D-line, the amount of freshman 5-stars who are coming in. It's probably the most talented team in the country pound for pound. I admittedly have some legitimate concerns about this team, though. And it really does just start with the fact that Sam Leavitt and all this new on offense hasn't really had that much time to get used to each other in the spring. And that can really, because, LSU starts out pretty hot. I mean, they host Clemson in the beginning of the year, which they should win. But, I mean, guys, it's Dabo Swinney. It's not going to be easy. So if the offense isn't ready, it could be low-scoring, high-variability game. They go to Ole Miss in week 3. Like, they start off hot. So if the offense is struggling and sputtering because they're not used to their quarterback, it could be a bad start. Maybe you pick up two losses in the first month and a half of the season, and all of a sudden your back's against the wall immediately. And LSU is going to be really, really good. They're going to win a ton of games this year. I'm concerned about if they can beat really good teams, though, just because of the Sam Leavitt situation. But when we get to the fall, we'll have more resolution on that. We'll really know how he looks in those scrimmages. And obviously, week 1, it'll be here before we know it. So the LSU Tigers, man, they're going to be fun to watch because of both their team and because of Lane and all the storylines around them. But if you have been enjoying all this college football content and you want to see your team coming up here in the roster breakdowns, we're going down alphabetically. I don't know who's next. I think it's the M's. One of the M's, I think. So we'll be getting those out every single day for the rest of the summer. We'll be doing SEC football content every single day. So subscribe to me here. Follow me on Twitter. I've been Will Thomas, and I will see you next time.